And we're live. Welcome to the Gordox Pub, where we are serving up some amazing artwork and hopefully some amazing storytelling. Oh,
It's very strange that I still don't hear you in the earphones.
yep, that is definitely weird.
And I
You
was
might want to
just
check
listening to a
your audio
media player.
settings on the computer.
I was just listening to media player in the earphones.
Yeah, I'm just okay. I don't know. Oh,
I don't know why it's not working here. Maybe, let's see. Maybe there's something in the settings. I don't think so.
so what are we doing tonight?
Speak. I
Just did.
fixed it. Well, you were not when I clicked the button and said speak. The
I
same
waited
time.
until you said something.
We are now. You're in my earphones now.
Okay. Hey, did you see that file I sent you?
I just looked at it. It hasn't changed to reflect what we talked about last time. That being that on the splash page where he's actually holding his fingers up to his nose.
Oh, I didn't worry about any of that, on any of the stuff that we've already passed. I just converted
No, that is page 6, panel 1.
Yeah.
That we were talking about moving that to the splash page because that's actually what they're doing on the splash page, or what he's doing on the splash page. So there's plenty of room for him to say that and Lamont to say that.
Okay.
So I just looked at it and I was like, well, that's hasn't been changed, so I didn't know.
No, it hasn't been changed. That was I thought that was a waste of time to go back and change stuff that we've already said. But what I was more worried about is that the way it's structured, the file format, like you were always kind of concerned about how many panels are on what page and where panels end and how easy it is to see and all that kind of stuff. And for me, I was just thinking, because I have both forms, the way that I did it, the one that I sent you, where everything's tabbed and the so you get to see exactly what's on what page, and it tells you a little bit like how many panels, because I thought that might be useful information if you just want to kind of see what it is. But I thought it would make it easier on you to see what goes on what page, and so you know where it stops and where it ends, versus having to put a page break and put special markers. If you're on that screen, that's that page. In fact, I kind of think if I was going to go over a page, in fact, I might have to look into that, because you can make subcategories too. So it'd be like, page 1, and like if it goes off more than one page of text, you can make the sub one the additional page. So you know that, yep, look, hey, that one's got it's got 2 pages. Like, I think it just might make it easier for you to see as the artist, and it's super easy to organize. Like, I was looking at that because I didn't know that Google Docs could do that. And I just happened to be playing around with it for the story I put on Slack. Hi, Creative Faye. By the way, Creative Faye, I believe I went to your page and I believe I followed you. I seem to recall going there. Because you have a lot of interviews with people. Unless I went to the wrong spot, in which case I feel stupid. But anyway. But yeah, I was doing world building for that story I put in Slack, and I have all these different files everywhere, and it's kind of gets confusing, and the novel's the same way. And novel might be worse. Like I've made folders for it, but when it's all in one tab or one document, and you just go over to the side and tab, it's so much easier. You know what I mean? You're like, no. Anyway, Rich, if you don't like that formatting, let me know. But otherwise, I thought it looked like better formatting. That tab feature, the way I figure it, is you make one document for the whole novel, and then each chapter gets its own tab. And then if you want, you can put subtabs for notes or whatever underneath it. And you can make that a heck of a lot more useful. You care if I share my screen while you're doing this?
What?
Do you care if I share my
Okay, I'm
screen?
confused on. What do you want? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You seem distracted tonight. So, just so some people can kind of see a little bit what I'm talking about to you about, before we had a traditional, or I was trying to do a kind of a traditional script, and so every page was, if you went on, you had to move, you had to basically, oh, look, even that one, the six, yeah, there you go, it's on its own page, way better. So, it was supposed to do this, which is great. But I decided if we move it to this format and once it loads, and the reason why it's in blue, for those of you who are wondering, or if anyone wonders, is because that's old stuff. It's kind of how I mark stuff that we're done with. Come on. If it would load. There we go. And now we have everything in its own panel so that we see exactly how much is on a page. We can see and move around faster. It's just a better, in my opinion, it's a better format. Slowing my computer down too much. So that's enough of that. Back to the artwork. Yeah, I was starting to lag big time. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
It was all right. Good food.
That's always good. My son made his very first sweet potato pie, which I've never made a sweet potato pie, so I was like, oh. So, turned out rather good. My heart.
Gotta get an extension for the cord for my earphones.
Okay.
It's so short it's getting in the way. I just pulled the plug on it because it folded up in my arm.
Huh.
Cheating.
What?
Said I'm cheating.
How are you cheating?
I'm not taking the measurement.
Oh, okay.
I've lined off the division of panels, and I'm using the lines that are in the ruler instead of, so this is, it is still a measurement, but instead of trying to figure it out, I just lined it up with the line because it's see-through, which makes it a lot easier. But it also restricts you to the size of the line. Like, you can't go any smaller than that. I didn't have this nifty little eraser pencil when we started, so I'm gonna do the same thing the opposite way.
Don't hurt my hairball.
Eli is deathly afraid of brooms and brushes.
Okay.
I don't know why. Apparently he was threatened with a broom. I know I kept him at bay with a broom once, but I wasn't swinging on him. I just kind of put the bristles at him. Like, aimed it.
Yeah. Our dog is terrified of him. I don't know.
Settled him right down from a tantrum, but for some reason it's because he's dead afraid of them, and I don't know why. Something must have happened with the broom while it was gone.
Something.
Because he is dead afraid of them. Well, I'm down one pad, so this page will not be the same size as the last page because each company has slightly different sizes in the pages.
Of course. Why have anything standardized?
Right, especially, comic standard paper size.
Right.
But to be fair, like if you look at DC and you look at Marvel and you look at Image, they're all different as well.
Not a sponsor, but could be. The day before Thanksgiving break, I bought a bag of these delightful things before school, and I put them in my fridge at school, and then I forgot about them. Then I remembered them, and I could go get them, or now I just have a delightful surprise waiting for me when I return.
Outsmarted myself.
Really? Way to go.
Hmm.
Only you can outsmart you.
Well, I don't know. I'd say it's only me, but
Yeah, I know.
I definitely did this time. I put the vanishing point off the board, and then I turned the paper around so that it was easier reaching, so that everybody else could see it easier. So now I have to recreate the vanishing point on the bottom. Now I've got to figure out the grid.
So you know how I like to go through and I'll make a kind of a playlist for the type of tone I want to listen to while I'm writing stories. And so I was making one that was kind of for me at least, sci-fi inspired. And I discovered yet another song that I know of that's not on Spotify. It really annoys me. Because there's a cover of Working Man. It's kind of a techno cover. They used it for the Transporter television show. And I thought, oh yeah, that'd be kind of good. But nope, it's not on Spotify. The artist does not have that song there. And the soundtrack that they have for the show is limited as well. And I was like, oh, that really sucks.
Did you try SoundCloud?
Nah, because I want it all on Spotify for the playlist. I mean, I can find it on YouTube.
Well, you can do that same thing on SoundCloud for free.
No, well, I like my Spotify.
I could tell. I like to find the songs that I'm looking for.
That's true.
So, I guess it's all up to you what's more important.
Well, I was just kind of surprised by all the crap that I have found, but then, I don't know, it was on a TV show. The other one was on a video game, so I thought, well, okay, maybe that's a little less. Like, I can find the artist, but they don't have that particular song on Spotify. I was kind of annoyed. Because the Walking Dead by Pure Essence is a great song. And it's in one of the Hitman video games. That's where I found it. And you can find Pure Essence on Spotify, but last I checked, you can't find The Walking Dead. As in the song The Walking Dead by Pure Essence, not Walking Dead songs. Because you can find stuff from the TV show, you just can't find that particular song. Which I believe came out before the TV show.
What's that, eh? What again? What about it? Me dad, Saturday, me have dad, Saturday night, me have dad, Saturday, yeah. Dad, Saturday, dad, 上滑，比如上滑，说上会摆，24 Friday, 24. Yep. Yeah, we were next Saturday. Yep. Tomorrow night, December now, count December. No, wait. December now, December, now December all done. December. Oh, mission day. December did our election day, our date meeting. Yeah, quick. Back here. What's up, bro? So I had supper, so I had. You had? What do you want today, Ken? 1 2 1 9. Can whole thing. We're home. All day, all day.
So
All
I was
day.
looking over some of the.
All night, bye on a supper can, bye more. Tonight, bye on a supper can. You did that.
But I was looking over submission calls and stuff.
Yep, see mom.
And
see mom. Alert. Take off. There you go. Maybe.
I found one that's paying 10 cents a word. And let me just read you this wonderful gem of a submission guideline.
What can? One day? What can we?
And normally I would not openly mock a publisher, but I'm going to openly mock these guys. We are buying stories for 10 cents a word for an anthology on the potential consequences of the 2024 presidential election, told in current, near future, or even similar situations where such a leader is in power. The title will be Alternative Liberties. We close on December 20th. The incoming president of the United States will be authoritarian with underlying elements of white and Christian nationalism. An unapologetic oligarchy has announced its interest in ending U.S. involvement with NATO, siding with the Soviets and Koreans against Europe, putting RFK Jr. in charge of healthcare, using the armed forces to police Americans, and becoming a dictator on day one. This is a short list. 2 minutes of research will tell you more. By the way, 3 minutes of research will tell you how much BS that is. But hey, whatever. This anthology. What?
OS.
Yeah. This anthology is our vision of what these next years will look like, not just in the White House, but in the day-to-day world on our planet. So, under such conditions, people will adapt, people will suffer, people will prosper, people will actively and passively resist. Project 2025 will rule. There will be oligarchs and red state theocracies, blue states struggling to protect their citizens, and citizens struggling to protect their states, cities, towns, families, and businesses. There will be teachers struggling to teach, prisons filling up, work camps, deportations, and the liberation of hate, and maybe even a dawning awareness that this might have been a mistake. I want stories of people who fight the change, endure the change, or embrace the change. But key word is people. I want the stories to be about the people. I want to feel your anger. I want to laugh or cry with satire. I want to cheer when your characters are redeemed, so on and so forth. And I'm sorry, but that to me just sounds like you want propaganda for your fantasy world, and I ain't supplying it.
Yeah, I'm not interested in bullshit.
I'm sorry, but that just reads to me like, first off, if you can't spell Christian with a capital C, you're an asshat. And because, I would spell Islam with a capital I would spell Buddhism with a capital B. I expect Christian to be capitalized because it's a proper noun. And if you're going to use it as a proper adjective, once again, it gets capitalized.
Yeah, and if you're an editor, you should know that.
Yeah. The fact that you're not capitalizing, to me, indicates that you're just being disrespectful and rude.
Well, that's the whole point.
Well, I know. Complete hate speech. I mean, it's just the idea that we're going to side with the Soviets and Koreans against Europe. Sure. Let's see what happens. And to me, the statement of there will be these things, I'm sorry, it's just okay. You want stories about how half the country is terrible or too dumb to know how to vote or whatever? Sure, fine, whatever. I hope your business goes out of business because nobody wants to buy your shit.
And it must be a wealthy editor because it's not going to sell to more than half the country, and
it's
not
going to
priorities.
That is true. Soviet unions have been gone for 30 years. That's true. But I'm not going to nitpick their stupid history.
Well, that's everything they said, right?
Oh, I know.
It's ridiculous to think that a president that's not the president you wanted will destroy the country because they have that much authority.
Well, if you're that scared of the president, then the office of the presidency has turned into something it should not have been. And I think that's something that you and I agree on, that if we're scared that Biden could do it, we're also scared that Trump could do it, because neither one should have the authority.
Yeah, I mean, so Trump has had the availability of prosecuting people for a long, long time. In his last election, he didn't prosecute any of the people that he promised to.
I know. I don't think he's going to do it this time either.
Well, no, and that's not the point. The point is that all this hysteria over it is just crap because it's proven to be not true. So, I mean, if that's what you want to believe, I have a friend that's his girlfriend is really afraid that they're going to come get her with red robes and white bonnets and make her be a breeder, even though she can't be a breeder, and we have in our state constitution, it's given the right to abortion pretty much as extensive as it can without being murder from a newborn baby or to a newborn baby.
You mean more? Yeah. We're murdering based on location.
It's in, and I'm just saying, like, it's in the state constitution. It's in the state that she lives in. So the whole issue of abortion is moot for her and for every woman in this state, because this state is one of the biggest proponents of it. And it went in under a Republican.
No.
So, they don't want to admit that it's a fact, because then they would have to think that a Republican did something good. It's just ridiculous. We've divided ourselves among lines that they wonder why it's not going to heal, or they wonder why people getting pissed and they're going to put up a fight. They wonder why they lost the election. Well, because you've called more than half the country subhuman.
Yeah.
And over nothing, just because you're throwing a tantrum because you didn't get your way. It's just stupid. We, like those of us that wanted this to happen last election, we didn't throw a tantrum. I mean,
I'm sure people did.
We may not have thought it was on the up and up. Now, nobody that I know threw a tantrum.
Right.
They made smart ass comments, but guess what? We're still making those smart ass comments.
Yeah.
Like, I have a friend that's been on this. We elected Elon Musk, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, because I would have voted for him if I could have.
Yeah.
And that, what are they going to say to that? And he starts doing this President Trump shit, and I'm like, well, you better run and hide. If you want to spend the next 4 years in fear and living in fear, not only you're an idiot, but you're welcome to, because it's a free country and you can do that. I'm going to grab a drink. I'll be right back.
All right.
Obviously not a sponsor. But we want to let people know what we're drinking anyway. Just to prove that it's not an alcoholic. Wow. So, all this careful measurement, I just wanted to get an exact number of bars on the crossing. And it didn't work out as an exact measurement anyway. But because it's going to be all damaged, I'm just worried about having guides. I can straighten them out to look straight as I want to as I go. I just want to have the squares in the middle kind of look like they're right. Perspective wise, this is actually sunken in, so it's not on the surface.
Yeah, how in the world are you going to sell a publication like that when as soon as you publish it, it's going to be so obviously fake and wrong and hyperbolic? Like,
Well,
if you're going
you're gonna sell it. You're gonna sell it out west.
I guess, but again, when no one is being rounded up and no one is being turned into breeders and no one is being forced to wear a happy hat and red uniform, I'm just saying, I don't think like it's going to defy believability when you're writing about what it's going to piss off a bunch of people, so they're not going to buy it at all. And then for the people it doesn't piss off, okay, but how many of them? I mean, I guess the few and far between who are just diehards for, it has to be terrible because the Republicans in charge.
Well, apparently, like the SIFWA has somebody approach somebody at a con again. So these are the people that are going to be buying that shit. The people that are selling it to begin with.
Whatever.
No, it's bullshit, but it's the truth because they're looking to sell to the echo chamber. They're looking to cater to a specific audience. They don't want to cater to an audience that's widespread, which in the end is detrimental to them. But they don't care.
Well, that's
They're only going to care, when it literally matters to the pocketbook. But I got a feeling the way that you read that, the way that it's written, that it's somebody that's got money, that's not worried about money. They're just putting it out to pamper all the leftards.
oh well, to keep people of that mindset busy while I'm busy creating something that people might actually want to buy. Hopefully.
Well, like we're trying not to put politics overtly into this, so I mean,
Well,
you've got a little bit of internal politics, like politics of the realm, and yes, I know that there's some fueling from ideas proffered by political idiots, but I for one did not base this on politics. It was based on escapism. So,
well, that's like so that story I put in Slack today. It's set in a universe far, 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 far away. There is literally one human, one, in that entire galaxy. But like when you're dealing with conflict, are people going to automatically, because you have one race who is oppressing another race, or one species that's oppressing another species, and you're going to find people who instantaneously say that's a metaphor for slavery or American
allegory, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and it's not. I mean, it's just, and I tried to. Well, you'll see, but I tried to not let any one particular side just be evil, and I tried to make sure that any one particular side just isn't virtuous, because that's not how people are. Like, there are bad and good people of all races, and so I hate how Hollywood tends to make. If you want an environmentalist or someone connected with nature, you get a Native American. It's like, okay. Because they're all pure environmentalists who've never damaged the environment. They don't drive trucks and things like that.
And they never had any intent of genocide against opposing tribes. And
no, that's only the white guy. So
even the evidence is nothing,
So it's one of those things. Although I got to tell you, there was some evidence I didn't know about with Jamestown that I thought was a little creepy, but. And I've known about it from.
There's one tribe that literally committed complete genocide on another tribe because they tried to cut off their stream for the fish that they both liked and redirect the water. So in the middle of the night, they snuck over and killed every man, woman, and child.
Yeah.
And it's documented. So.
Right, but we, Hollywood and a lot of writers tend to make certain people just pure and innocent as the driven snow, and everyone else is just evil, 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 and I don't know why we accept that.
It's called the golden, what the hell is it? Golden primitive, right?
Yeah.
That they were talking about, like, when cavemen lived, everybody lived in peace because they just farmed in their separate places and hunted in their separate places, although all the evidence in the world is that there were murders and killings and wars as far back as we can go.
Excuse me. So yeah, I just, but I know, like, that's one of the things I tried to put in the story was, okay, you got a system of oppression. There's a reason for the system of oppression, but that reason's kind of old and should be looked at anew. But like everything else, there's inertia and everything else that goes on to a society and stuff like that. So whatever. So there's stuff going on, but then also at the end, it's not, oh, these people are bad. I try to, have it be
Oy.
we can all benefit by working together versus being at each other's throats. Crazy thought.
Now I've got to remember, for consistency's sake, there are 3 verticals and 4 horizontals.
I was trying to figure out what you were talking about with consistency. I was like, what? I don't understand. Like, it's all there. And then I realized, because of in other pictures, if it's still in the picture, it's got to have the same amount of, yeah.
Yeah, in the next picture, it's going to be a different angle, but it's going to be the same thing.
Right.
So.
Right.
How was your Thanksgiving?
That was pretty good. Got to see my dad and his wife, and I don't quite understand. There's.
I would have gone to see my dad, but I wouldn't be here today.
Oh. Well.
Because my dad's dead.
Oh, okay.
Soon enough. Those people that are rooting for it.
So, if I understand it correctly, Sean is my dad's wife's stepson from a prior marriage. I think that's how that works. So,
what does that make us? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. But I like him, so I like the fact that he comes and hangs out at Thanksgiving. I think it's great. So, It was nice seeing him, and like I said, my son cooked his first sweet potato pie. Both my boys were kind of laughing at that because my older boy went and grocery shopped, and he comes back and he goes, "That recipe calls for 2 pounds of sweet potatoes." He's like, "Do you know how many sweet potatoes that is?" I was like, "I'm going to guess 2." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, they're big, man. Like, what do you expect for a pie?" But I just thought that was kind of funny.
Before you husk them or after?
That's true. That's a good question. I think it's before, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Because, like, if you went to McDonald's and ordered a quarter pounder,
Oh, I know.
you're not getting a quarter pound of beef. It started off that way. Well, you're probably not getting a quarter pound of beef anyway.
Well, they say it starts off that way.
That's what I'm saying. But, I'm questioning whether it's beef at all, too, so.
I always found it kind of interesting that 2 cheeseburgers, like the regular tiny cheeseburgers, if you get the 2 cheeseburger meal, it's got more calories than the quarter pounder meal. And it basically comes down to all the bread. Although I suppose technically you get the same amount of ketchup and mustard. So
See,
you
Eli
get twice
had
the ketchup and mustard.
a dance play that we went to last week.
Yeah.
And we were running late, so we stopped and grabbed something from Burger King, which is like very, very, very rare.
Because it's freaking expensive.
No, because it's garbage food.
And it's really expensive.
Yeah, it's not that much of that because we go out and eat Chinese all the time. So, or order in Chinese all the time. It's not the expense, but it's just the garbage food part. So, but we grabbed a couple of like chicken sandwiches and onion rings and stuff like that on the way. And then when we picked Eli up, he sees that we've got a Burger King cup, and he determines that tomorrow he's going to Burger King. he had to go to Burger King, and the irony is he's a McDonald's kid. He wants McDonald's and fries all the damn time, but he had to have Burger King this time because he missed out on it when we went to Burger King. He's got a dance this Saturday. He's all excited about because he doesn't really dance.
Hey, fun fact, neither do I.
He lacks everyday coordination.
Fun fact.
No.
No.
We're talking about 2 totally different things.
Probably.
Like, you may have no sense of rhythm, but
that is true.
I'm sure your hand goes where it wants to go every time. Or most of the time, anyway.
I was going to say, maybe most of the time.
So anyway, yeah. He's got this dance coming up, but he had, as part of the, they call it a bazaar.
Yeah.
It's Morris High School Bazaar, so they call it Mohiba. But it's some kids sing, some kids act, some kids dance, and his unified basketball team, unified volleyball team, they did this little dance number, and he was in it. But like he had a girl on each arm skipping him down the line towards the audience, and he was just hamming it up. funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
one of my friends who had gotten his black belt long before I did, uh, when he was trying to get me to do taekwondo, that was one of his selling points was that it'll help with your balance and hand-eye coordination. Like, all right, whatever. And so you start getting some of these things about, if you drop something, they make fun of you because, whatever. That's real black belt material there, that kind of thing. And just the other night, I was sitting there and I went to turn over a book to read the back of it, and I don't know what the hell I did. Just all of a sudden, the book's up in the air. I'm fumbling for it. I don't know. It was pure style and grace, and I did catch it. I still don't know how I managed to throw it up in the air because it wasn't like I was walking with it. It was just turning it over, and I fumbled that something fierce. And yeah, I was just that's the black belt move right there. So. Or last week we were, they start every day with the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know what I did, but I completely lost my balance, and thank God my chair is behind me because when they said, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, I popped right up and popped right back down. Completely.
I stood. Did you see it?
Yeah. And then everyone's looking at me because, it's a classroom full of 7th graders. And I'm like, yep, I'm just going to sit here for a minute. Just, you guys keep doing that. I'll just try not to die inside as I'm embarrassed beyond belief.
You live there now.
Yeah.
Creative Faye, are you still here?
She might have gone back to Soviet Russia.
I don't think she's from Soviet Russia, but
Yes, I know that.
I had a relevant question. That's why. That's why I even brought her up because she's working on one of these as well. I wasn't like singling her out because she's Russian. She's a Russian spy or whatever. Look, she ran.
Yep, we blew her cover.
Oh well. I was going to ask her if she's doing it all digital or if she's doing it traditionally like I am. Because I wonder for those who do it traditionally like I am, that aren't working for one of the big 3, big 5, or whatever you want to call it nowadays. I don't think there is 5 anymore. I mean, I think there's a couple that pop up and then they pop back, but it's not like it was. And IDW is gone, and Well, what I did was to buy this big portfolio, which I've shown you before. But now it's kind of laid out like the comic's going to be, where you got page 1, page 2, page 3. Double page spread, which I needed so I could see their boots. Whoa, it's pretty heavy. The next thing I'll need is to get something where I can prop it up, and I don't have a big area at all for this. I just realized today that's why I'm using a sheet from a different pad that I ran out of the other pad. I only realized it when I opened up the other pad. A full pad of this paper is 23, 24 sheets, I think.
Yeah.
Basically a comic book.
Okay.
So I'm going to end up having to buy a couple more pads.
Oh, hold on. I gotta mute. And there we go.
That was pretty loud for mute.
That was not on mute?
Oh.
Well, if that was the only part that you heard, that's okay.
Well, it was loud. I didn't say it wasn't okay. I said it was loud.
Okay. I would only worry about it because my screen said I was on mute, and I would just be like, what the hell? Basically, my son came up and was asking me about, because we only have one bathroom, like how long I'm going to be on this and that kind of thing. So basically, he was being nice and polite and making sure that if he was going to be in the bathroom for a while, that it would be okay.
You tell him just don't call Guinness?
No, I did not say that.
Just so long as you're not filming for Guinness. We should be all right.
Do you know what a little Joe crossbow is?
Not by name, no.
It is a little compact pistol-looking crossbow, but instead of it being this way, it's this way. So it's vertical, not horizontal.
Yep.
And yeah, apparently it was used in World War II when they really had to be quiet. But that's just boss. Did you go and see Wicked yet?
Why would I do that? Didn't I tell you why I don't read fantasy much anymore?
Why?
Didn't I tell you that?
I don't know. I guess not, because I don't recall.
Because they're making witches and warlocks and all that.
Oh, yeah, that
good gods. And that's exactly what they do with Wicked. I think it's quite telling that you can't have the Christian God. You literally have to make up false gods. And that witches and sorcerers and people who have familiar spirits are the heroes. So, I mean, your mileage may vary. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. But for me, that's just not my bag. All right. See, I told you we should have had that puppet show. People would watch for that.
Well, I have discovered that doing puppets is freaking hard. Like, god-awful hard. Like, if you don't want to be in the shot, you just want the puppet, it's a pain in the butt. So my wife was watching Father of the Bride with Steve Martin, which, and then she watched Father of the Bride too, because, might as well. It's basically the same movie.
If you say so.
I've always enjoyed the films. I don't mind. They're guilty pleasures, but God, I was watching it today, and I'm just looking at this, and I'm like, this is the whitest movie I've ever seen. Like, I think there might be one person in the entire two films that isn't white, and it's in LA, or around California, somewhere around there. And I'm like, I don't recall LA being quite so monochromatic. And then, just everyone has like the whitest white names, and it's just kind of funny. I don't know why I noticed it.
Might be different if you're in South Central.
Well, so then I was thinking this might actually be a movie concept that I would, as much as I enjoy the original two, and Steve Martin is great in both. I wouldn't mind seeing those movies done with maybe someone not white and watching them freak out the way, just different stuff going on. I don't know.
Didn't Cedric the Entertainer do something like that already?
I don't know I think he did Look Who's Coming to Dinner. Didn't he do that with the guy that did that 70s show? Kelso? Whatever his name is. Married to that one chick from the show.
You mean Ashton Kutcher, who just ran away from the fucking Diddy files?
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah. Did he?
That's funny, because he's done a lot of work about human trafficking and stuff.
Yep, him and Mila Kunis, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
They bolted.
Huh.
Same thing with Ellen and Portia. They went to England and their house is flooded underwater, so.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. It's only funny for me just because I know they have the money to afford that shit, whereas I don't. If my house floods,
because they're leaving one mansion to go to another mansion.
I know. Oh no.
And yeah, she's deep into that bullshit too.
Well, I'm sure she'll retire and live off of her meager savings.
She ran away from the country. She said she's not coming back.
Well, I'm sure she'll retire somewhere on her meager salary or savings. That's all I'm saying.
That would be already retired.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Whoopi's a working girl. She only makes the mean average household income per episode.
Right.
Per week.
That was one thing that I thought was...
She knows what it's like to fucking scrimp and save to buy a steak.
Yeah. She, well, I was a little disturbed because my wife was watching ER. I think it was ER. And, it was either ER or she was watching that, although I don't think it comes up in Father of the Bride. So I think it's ER. And they mentioned The View, and I was like, holy cripe! That was, how long has The View been running?
Much too long.
Well, that's true. Although, I saw a clip with Joe Rogan, and I had to laugh pretty hard about that. Because he's like, why don't they have any trans women on The View? I was like, oh, God.
Oh, I love Joe Rogan's... Love Joe Rogan's post. I'd pay to see Beth from Yellowstone on The View.
I think I know who that is. I've never really watched the show. Is she the one that's mean and...
She's the only girl of the family.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty mean.
Yeah.
She's got good reason to be mean. You don't learn it until like the 3rd season or 4th season, something like that.
Whatever.
No, it's still pretty good reason.
Well, I believe it. I just never really watched the show. Just didn't really care. But I mean, not that I mind that you watch it or anything. I just never watched it.
Well, I really haven't watched it in a long time.
No.
I watched the first, I think, 3 seasons, and then it felt like it was a recipe for me. Like every season, it's how do we kill the Duttons, and then I watched the prequel to that, and then the prequel to that. The first prequel was Harrison Ford was supposed to be his dad.
Okay.
So it was like in the 20s. And then Sam Elliott was in the one before that, but I don't think he was actually supposed to be one of the Duttons. So they pulled in the big names, but it's pretty ruthless, and I think that's the real sell to it. But like I said, after about the 3rd season, you're starting to get the idea that this is going to happen every season. They're going to try to kill all the Duttons every season. And then how do the Duttons get back at them at the beginning of the next season? The first 3 seasons, while you were like kind of learning the milieu and how it worked and what the family politics were, it was a lot more interesting. And then after that, it just started getting predictable for me. But Beth is, take no shit, shock factor. She's like the shock jock of the family. She's pretty hateful against her, like, stepbrother. And like I said, you find out why a couple seasons in, and I wouldn't ruin it for you, because it's well worth watching that far, at least. But kind of petered off after that for me, and then everything was like Yellowstone the hat, Yellowstone the lunchbox, Yellowstone the underwear.
Well, yeah, you got to make that bank.
Yeah, it's just kind of out there. All right. Now I got to turn this around again, and then turn the page around again.
Oh.
However, if we're going to ever get anywhere with this comic, we're going to have to, well, I guess it depends on how fast we want to do it, but if we're going to get it to be anywhere within where it can make a profit in our lifetime, we have to do more than one panel a show, right?
Uh-huh.
So far,
yeah, because if you want to do,
I haven't really been able to do that. But like, if I wasn't on camera and stopping to talk to you and sharpening pencils and having to take off my earphones to go get a drink, and because I'm not want to yell across the house.
I say as long as you, as we see well, I don't know. I don't know if you have to draw everything on camera. If that's slowing you down.
Yeah, we keep saying that, but I still do.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, oh.
I don't know. It kind of feels wrong to say that we're going to do everything on camera and then not do everything on camera.
Well, if you're real desperate, you could always just record it, and then there people want it, but you don't have to have a shoe.
really what it is that I'm more comfortable taking this board and leaning it up like this while I'm drawing. But then you wouldn't see shit, so. Oh, another look at the boots.
All kinds of things I never thought of.
Well, this is consistency.
I get that. I just,
I'm not necessarily just talking to you,
Okay.
explaining why I'm taking my time and make sure they're right is because
Otherwise, it'll look wrong.
I want them to look consistent from one page to another, from one panel to another.
It's a little easier to do that with writing. There are some things you can just state once and never mention again.
Well, there are things that you have to state and remember. Like, I mean, for instance, if there's a particular cut to somebody's hair or particular thing they're wearing, a particular sword they're using, you can't just switch out randomly. But you definitely don't have to worry about visual accuracy every single panel.
No, and I can just say there's a grate on the floor, and I don't have to count how many, vertical versus horizontal there are. Because I said there was a grate on the floor, and that was good enough.
Actually, it's my fault. Because originally you just had it a panel.
Yep.
And then when I accepted the panel, you're like, well, you're right. Let's do a grade on the floor.
Well, I just said it's
No, I'm just
easy enough.
kidding. So this would be a whole different approach if I was looking to do this so that I'm using it as like a audition, I guess. Like if I was trying to use this in reference later on to get a job.
Oh yeah.
Like I wouldn't draw it on screen, and I probably wouldn't draw it the way I'm drawing it on the paper now because I wouldn't have to. I'm very happy with all of the authoritarian figures in this world so far wearing sabatons.
Okay.
You know what sabatons are?
Nope.
These.
Other than the band.
Yeah, which is named after the knight's footgear.
Oh, I know that.
Sabaton is an armored boot. And most of the band's songs are about historical references or historical events.
Okay. Something I did not know.
what a Sabaton is?
Yeah.
Do you know what greaves are?
I believe.
Or a vambrace?
Oh, I definitely know what a van brace is.
What?
I definitely know what a van brace is, but yeah, yep, I knew those. I just didn't know that the shoe had a specific name. Or the foot, or whatever you want to call it. But basically, yeah, they named their band after metal shoes.
The foot armor, yeah. I decided on Sabatons for a practical reason.
Easier to draw?
Well, not really. I mean, you don't have to worry about segments on a boot.
It's true.
You can do a pullover boot. There are all kinds of boots that you can do, not worrying about, how to
They're no
represent
laces.
something. No, but I wouldn't have put laces in anyway.
Okay. So, what was the reason?
You see the streets?
What?
Did you see the street?
No.
It's all banged up and tore up, and you'd be kicking your toes and tripping. And
Oh, okay.
well, these are armored toes. Plus, I'm just confirmed in my choice when you're telling me there are stuff that's roaming, creatures that are roaming around as well, that may be underwater or...
Well, again, they're going into the places where you're generally not supposed to go. So,
Well, there's a manhole access, so,
well, yeah, because you got to have access to those places. Doesn't mean that
So-
most people go there.
Well, I didn't say most people, but you said not supposed to go.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't normally think I should go head into the sewers for funds and stuff.
Well, you see, I didn't say for funds, but somebody's got to do the work, so they're normally going down there.
Yes, but again, most
Okay,
people
so
got it.
now we're gonna start splitting hairs, and I don't want to do that. It was, first of all, just meant to be a joke. Second of all, if there's going to be creatures outside dangerous all over the place, creatures in the water that are dangerous and whatever, I wouldn't assume that a kept city like this wouldn't have stuff roaming around, giant rats or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to argue about how many people or why
It's
somebody
exactly
goes down
7.2.
to the access tunnel.
It's exactly 7.2. It's that 0.2 guy. Whew. Bad luck.
Somebody's got to be on point. Usually he wears a red shirt, right?
Exactly. I thought it was funny because if you said somebody was red-shirted, to me, that was a Star Trek reference.
Right.
And they were talking about it at lunch one day about somebody getting red-shirted, and they were talking about sports, and I was so confused. And because it's just a frame of reference I didn't have, I guess. I am not the most into sports. Never have been. Like, I've never understood why people get so caught up with their teams. It would be one thing if you were like, your father played for them or you played for them, but
I got into football pretty hard because I was in Tennessee, and I had an acquaintance that he was a football player. He respected me because somebody tried to assault me and I went off on him, and it was, it was it was one of those years, and I wasn't taking anybody's shit. And the guy was a black guy, and the guy that I'm talking about is a black guy as well. So the one guy pretty much attacked me, and then in the locker room he tried to intimidate me again, and I just kind of smacked him in the face of the locker. But this other guy, had a lot of respect and kind of gotten in the way when somebody wanted to retaliate, and we kind of became friends, like acquaintances, but more, we said hey to each other in passing, and we looked kindly on one another, right? Well, he was dating a girl that her parents wouldn't let her go to prom with him because she was a white girl.
Oh, jeez.
And so I took her to prom. I took her to prom so that
she could go out with the other guy?
Yeah, so that they could be together.
Yeah.
And the homecoming game, he played, and he was running back, which is usually the guy that gets the ball behind the lines and runs.
Uh-huh.
And the other team grabbed him, got a hold of him, pulled him down in the end zone, and smashed his legs against the uprights.
Huh.
And after that, he had so much heart that after that, he had the game-winning touchdown, and his legs were bandaged, So there was just no quit in him, and the passion that he had for it, that was definitely contagious, and that's kind of why I got into it. So I kind of understand that, like, and I'm a Lions fan, which is, the Lions, they just won this weekend, and they are 11-1, and it's the first time in franchise history that they've gone 11-1. So, I mean, they usually don't get this far. They've had a few famous players play for them, but they're usually not a team that finishes the season or gets the Super Bowl. So, when you waited 30 years to see it,
well, I mean, okay. I haven't waited 30 years for anything. Hey, well, I'm gonna.
That's the thing, though. I mean, that's because that's a lot of people do.
Right. I'll be right back. I'm gonna take my my midstream stretch because the bathroom's about to be taken up. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Oh my god, I don't know what I did, but I completely cut you off the stream. I think I know what I did. I think I pressed the one button, the solo button. But whatever it was, then I was all panicked.
Well, I could see me on the screen. I didn't
Well,
see you
I
on
put
the
you
screen.
back.
No, when you were gone.
Right. Before I left, I made sure it was you. But at the beginning of it, trust me, it was not you. It was me muted and panicking. Because like a bomb's going to go off or something. But, you know, whatever. Just one of those things. I was like, oh. I got startled. Well, I know, like, for the Olympics, I root for the U.S. because I'm a U.S. citizen. And, you know, they represent me. And so I like to see us win. But even, like, for football, like, I'll root for the Colts. Or I'll root for the Bears. And I'll occasionally watch. But, like, I don't know who's on the roster. I don't know.
I loved the Colts for a long time. Till they broke up a really good team. They let 𝕄𝔸𝕊𝔋𝕀𝔽𝔽 go. And
see, you've already reached beyond my level of expertise.
He was their running back, and that year was the year before they went to the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. And him and Marvin Harrison, which was a wide receiver, had the most connections. Like they won the world record or the NFL Hall of Fame for the most quarterback throws to a single receiver. Of course, it got beat out the next year by Tom Brady. But yeah, I liked that team. When they traded 𝕄𝔸𝕊𝔋𝕀𝔽𝔽, I was disappointed, but they still got to the Super Bowl. They still had Marvin Harrison, but then after that, I think they got to the Super Bowl twice, right? They won once and they didn't the second time or something like that, or maybe they did the second time. It's been a while. But then they let Peyton Manning go, and Peyton Manning was really the driving force for the team. They got Andrew Luck, and I wasn't impressed with that trade. I thought they should have held on to him. They didn't, and then he went to the Super Bowl with the Broncos. It's like almost telling them, look, you dumbasses.
Screwed the pooch on that one.
Yeah, that's the thing about football. Like, I used to love football a lot more, but now they've got the whole free agent thing, which the players are about the players. They're about their own stats, and they're about, getting the highest paycheck they can get. And I get it, but you're getting paid millions of dollars to play a game for a season. So I don't think that's overly much. That's one of the things that impressed me about the Lions this year. I had actually given up on football when they started taking a knee in the national anthem, and then they started playing the black national anthem before the national anthem. And the national anthem doesn't have a color.
Yeah.
It's about the nation, not a color. So that kind of turned me off to football, and it started becoming way political. And I watched football to not watch politics, to watch two teams battling strategy-wise and battling, like literally battling for inches sometimes. The St. Louis Titans game, Super Bowl, when the Titans was the first time it was the Tennessee Titans. They were the Houston Oilers the year before. They lost literally by like 3 inches because their running back, Eddie George, got tackled like just short of the end zone, and he reached for it. Like, I mean, he was pushing it, not putting his knee down, and it came so close. I mean, but at the same time, Kurt Warner, who was like the oldest quarterback in football, or one of the oldest quarterbacks in football at the time, in under 2 minutes, he came from behind and led the St. Louis Rams to victory. But it was such a tight game. The tight ones are the ones that are stressful. That's the ones that everybody watch for, you know. It's not the games that are shutouts, or the games that, like, if you know a team that your team or a team is playing a team that you know sucks, yeah, you don't really want to see that unless you're really bored that day. But it's like the game this Thanksgiving was the Lions against the Bears, and they've got a little bit of a rivalry going on because, you know, really they're literally just across Lake Michigan from each other. And at the first part of the game, the Lions were up like 13-0 for the first half. When they went into the halftime, the Bears had nothing. And then the Bears came back in the second, well, yeah, I think the second half, the third quarter, they started coming back. And in the fourth quarter, they were so close, it was a field goal. Like, and the Bears had the ball, so if they had a bad call at the last play, if they didn't, they could have got a field goal off and tied the game to overtime. And that was how close that game was. Those are good games. It's just sometimes they take a while to get started. The key with football is they don't really start playing. You don't really see who wants to win the most until the fourth quarter. Because the fourth quarter is that's when the big plays happen. That's when guys have been on the field, they're tired. They so the Lions, for instance, the Lions offense was on the field in the first half pretty much most of the time. The Bears offense were on for 3 and outs, I think 2 times, maybe 3. But they had 2 downs and they had to punt it away. So the rest of the time, which even though it says their 15-minute quarters usually runs about an hour or for the half. So they were basically playing, the offense were on the Lions were playing for the first half pretty much. So the offense got tired and they started making mistakes in the second half because they were tired. And the defense on the Bears had been tired from the first half, so they were having it harder. They found some rhythm in the second half, but if not, like it was really looking like a shutout for a time, and that wouldn't have been a great game, you know.
Okay.
I mean, all the Michigan fans would have been cheering, and we were anyway, but it's not an exciting game when there's really nothing happening on the other side. The excitement comes in from the chance of losing, right?
I guess.
Oh, it's like I was telling my daughter when she was talking about something like during an adventure, it's never fun. It's always bad shit happening and you dealing with that bad shit during the adventure. It's you remembering the adventure that you have your laughs and fun at stuff that was scaring the shit out of you during the adventure, right?
I think they mentioned that in The Hobbit.
I think Tolkien said that. I don't know if he mentioned it in The Hobbit, but
It sounds
it definitely
very
is.
Bilbo-ish.
It definitely is a truism. Because when any real adventure is happening,
It sucks.
yeah, it's a series of bad things that are happening or things that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
That's what we writers make our living off of with adventure fiction, right?
Yeah.
The threat of loss, the threat of whatever the stakes are. Did you see the ad for Superman Legacy yet?
Nope.
I watched 2 different ones just before this.
Yeah.
So Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk are in it. Nathan Fillion, right? Nathan Fillion is playing Guy Gardner.
Well, Nathan Fillion. To say Nathan Fillion is in a Zack Snyder movie doesn't necessarily mean he's.
This is
in the
James
movie.
Gunn,
Oh, that's right. That's what I meant. James Gunn.
and he's playing Guy Gardner, so he's
I get
playing the
that.
Green Lantern. It's
Well-
probably a cameo. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's not what I'm saying, but all right. When I said that, what the reference was to is that if you watch Firefly
Yeah.
and you watch Serenity,
Uh-huh.
ever since Firefly stopped and Serenity was made, and that was that,
Yeah.
you see that all the characters that are in there, all the actors that are in there,
Uh-huh.
making guest appearances on each other's shows.
Okay.
So I'm not surprised to see Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion in the same show.
Uh.
You see Resident Alien, right?
Yeah, I've watched it. Well,
Did
I've
you-
watched some of it.
Because Nathan Fillion makes an appearance there too, kinda.
Uh.
How far did you get?
I don't even think we finished the first season.
Oh well, I think he's in the second, or I think it's the second season.
Like, I know the little Indian girl, I think she's Indian, and the boy from the town mayor were doing something, and his wife was there, and they were, I don't know. I just was like, all right, this is never mind. But like, I think it's great to see Nathan Fillion, and I would love to see Nathan Fillion play Guy Gardner, because Guy Gardner is an interesting character, although he's not my favorite Green Lantern by far. But
You know, the irony is that Alan Tudyk's more of a redhead.
what?
That Alan Tudyk's more of the redhead. Guy Gardner's a redhead.
Yeah, that's true. But it still highlights my problem with the movie itself. I am more interested in Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion than I am in whoever the guy is playing Superman.
Yeah, after seeing the
Trailer?
yeah, I don't want to see it any more than I wanted to see it before.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult is playing Lex Luthor. Then they're not telling you who Alan Tudyk's playing. So I'm guessing that's a surprise guest appearance.
Well,
Generally, when they keep it under wraps like that, there's a reason.
But I don't know. I saw an ad for the Craven the Hunter film, and I have not been interested in that film at all.
Nope.
And I saw a new trailer, and I was like, "Holy shit, that would actually made it look good." I was kind of surprised. I was like, "Oh, like that trailer makes me kind of interested in seeing it."
I don't think the actor looks the part.
Neither do I.
I don't think that he even sounds. There's nothing that sells him as Craven to me.
Right, I agree.
That's the hard part for me. Like
Yeah.
because I grew up on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like ingrained in me, and I'm like, I'm like thinking he should be like that. That should be like Dwayne Johnson would have probably played that well. And I'm not a great fan of Dwayne Johnson, but he's got the size, he's got the look. When you see him as Hercules, he almost had that look down.
I think I would have.
That's not necessarily who I would have chosen acting wise, because I don't think he's a great actor, but he's got the look. That's like Ray Stevenson having the Punisher's look. He looked right like he stepped out of the Tim Bradstreet comic.
Yeah, I would have. I would have probably cast. I can't. I don't know how to say his last name. Florian Munteanu. He's the guy that played Victor Drago in Creed 2 and Creed 3. And he's a big guy. He's German. So he'll at least have some kind of an accent. And, you can always work on accents, but I think he would have looked more the part, but I don't know.
I don't know. Like I said, if you look at Dwayne Johnson in his Hercules role, he pretty much looked the part.
Yeah, but
He had the lion. I wouldn't put it on his head, obviously, because it should have been around his shoulders. But the long black hair, it just he could have looked the part pretty well.
yeah, but he's Russian. That's what I thought. Like, I was just double checking. But I don't know how well Dwayne Johnson can play a Russian. Which I suppose, it could have been. Who cares? But the same problems you would have had with if they would have race swapped anyone else. So
I don't think I'd have had that problem because I've seen art that looks exactly like that.
Well, I started watching.
I don't think that dude looks big enough.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking at a picture of him, and he's built. I'm not saying he's not,
He
but
looked pretty darn big in Creed, let me tell you. So if you've never seen Creed,
I'm looking at a photo of him from Creed.
yeah, he looked freaking huge.
I'm looking at him versus the Ring, and he doesn't look very huge to me.
Okay, you say so. Guy's 6'4".
Okay.
I generally start saying anyone who's taller than me is tall. That's just my personal bias. So
I didn't say he wasn't tall. I said he doesn't look that big to me.
no, that's fine. That's
not the same thing.
because Dwayne the Rock Johnson does get rather huge,
Yeah.
or has gotten rather huge before. Ugh. So I can see where, big muscular guy. I don't see.
That dude just doesn't look that huge to me. I mean, tall is one thing, but doesn't look huge to me.
All right.
He's built. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not built, but I guess it depends too on the art that you want to look at or whatever. But I have certain memories of Craven art wise that I don't know. Like, I'm not saying I said already that I'm not saying that Dwayne Johnson is the perfect role or anything. I'm just saying that he's big enough and he had that look when he was in Hercules. That's it. I mean, does he have the accent? No.
Well, no, because
I don't think size matters in the Marvel universe because Wolverine's fucking 6'2" in the Marvel universe.
That's true too.
Or Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you watch Lord of the Rings, none of those people are the size they're supposed to be. Again, just...
I just know the guy played a Russian, and he was an imposing Russian in Creed. And I know that...
so did Dolph Lundgren.
Well, if Dolph Lundgren was younger, I would have said Dolph Lundgren.
Really? Just because of the Russian accent?
No, because he's freaking huge. There's a reason why he was chosen to play Drago, or whatever his name is. Because he was freaking huge. So, had that reach. That freaking massive jaw. Although, to be honest with you, I don't know if... Because didn't he play like a dark-haired Punisher? Didn't he play Punisher? And I don't know how much I appreciated that version.
They shoe polished a beard on him, shoe polished his stubble.
Yeah, like, can't you grow that naturally?
Well, he could, but he's blonde, so it wouldn't have that same look.
Stuff.
That was a horrible Punisher movie.
Yeah.
And the shame is that it could have been a better movie. They had Lou Gossett Jr. in it. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
And he could have, there was no set cop that was a big deal in the Punisher universe. So, I mean, that would have been fine. It wouldn't have been a huge deal. But it was the stupid little skull knives, and the bad guy was nobody you cared about. Like, everybody wanted to see Jigsaw. Everybody. Yeah. And then when they did do Jigsaw, they actually didn't pick a bad actor, but I don't think the actor knew what the fuck he was doing for the role. Because the actor is Dominic West. And he did a good job in 300. You wanted to fucking smash him in 300. He was also in Centurion, and he was really good in Centurion. But for some reason, as Jigsaw, he just was an idiot, and he had his little brother was supposed to be the scary one, and he just looked like he was a toddler that liked to chew on things. And probably didn't help that The Punisher was my favorite comic book at the time.
Probably not.
And well, it's pretty much my favorite comic book characters have always been The Punisher and Moon Knight. And Moon Knight was my favorite comic book character when nobody knew who the hell Moonlight was, you know? Like, he was like a side reference or a member of a team. Like, he hadn't, I don't think he had actually been big at all, but he only had his own comic for a while in the 70s. He was rejuvenated when Stephen Platt took over.
Well, I remember because I've read some of his comics, and I probably read some of the ones from the 70s too. Because growing up, those are the ones I would have had access. Because I don't recall seeing a lot of Moon Knight when I went to the store to buy comics.
No, there wasn't a lot.
Yeah, I was only buying comics at the time it was Hooks, and then it was, well, now it's CBS. But I never had there was never a comic book store around here or around where I grew up.
Well, when I was growing up, we would actually get them from the supermarket, and then there's a bookstore in the next town over that was a bigger bookstore that had some comics, but for the most part, we'd have to order them direct if we really wanted them like that. I mean, there was some Moon Knight ones, but like I said, my Uncle Jimmy really brought that stuff into my life.
Yeah.
But he had the old Bill Sienkiewicz.
Well, whatever.
Yeah, well, he's specific. It's Sienkiewicz.
I believe it. I understand that. I wouldn't know.
Well, I'm trying to pronounce it properly.
Okay.
As an artist, I've got mad respect for him. When he opens his mouth about politics, yeah, that's when I don't have any respect at all anymore.
Well, probably.
But artistically, he's pretty incredible. So credit where it's due, right?
Yeah. I was watching a video with Charlie Kirk, and
I've done that.
He was arguing. Of course, he was arguing with college kids, and the college kid was a libertarian, or said he was a libertarian. Although somebody said they were a socialist libertarian, which doesn't make sense. I agree, but
right.
So the college kid was like, "Yeah, all drugs should be legal," and Charlie Kirk's response to that, I thought was actually pretty bad. Because his response is, "Oh, you want to go to San Francisco right now and buy some drugs?" And that doesn't prove that whether they should be legal or not. Like, I don't want to go around having sex with men, but there are other people that do. It should. Okay.
Well, what he's saying though is that you go to that city where you can buy them and you can see what that city's like.
Well,
and I'm not saying that that's necessarily a fair statement.
It's not.
I'm not saying anything about it except for the fact that you can definitely go places where you see hypodermic needles all over the ground.
Well, again, that's
and shit and all that. So I mean,
I agree, but there's a lot more to Democrat policies and the way they ran that city beyond just the drugs. And the drugs are probably contributing to it, and that makes it worse. I get it. But
they are a factor.
Just because I don't want to go do something, or I don't, just because I've said that that's not for me, that's not necessarily my place to say it should be illegal. So it's just a matter.
That's a libertarian standpoint.
I tend to be rather libertarian.
I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I was just identifying that.
Even though I would
that-
argue that no, you shouldn't have. Like I've never seen a good use for heroin, just random recreational heroin use, or morphine use. And I've seen people like when OxyContin was real big, and there were some people we knew in Kentucky, and they'd take some and just zone out. And I was just, oh, I guess I should take my pill. I'm feeling something, and then
I had a building that I rented out with a so-called partner.
yeah,
And I paid him rent because he had the credit, but the landlord knew that I was paying, my share and the deposit and all that.
yeah.
And the guy used my money for 6 months instead of paying the rent on OxyContin.
Yeah, see, I mean, I recognize there are
And-
dangers with drug use because drug use impairs your ability to make rational decisions, and libertarianism is based on the idea that human beings can make rational decisions. So I have a hard time wrapping my head around let's make all drugs legal.
So that's not actually what libertarian's based on. It's based on the non-aggressive pact. That's one of the things that I agree very strongly with as far as libertarianism goes. And that's just that I won't attack you. I won't get in your business. I won't put myself in your anything. So I'm not going to be aggressive toward you at all. And that's the non-aggressive principle. That doesn't mean that, somebody picks a fight that I won't fight back, but I won't be the one picking the fight. It's a little bit different than what you're saying. That's why when you said, like, just because they're not for me doesn't mean I would tell that anybody else that they're not for them. When I said that was a very libertarian statement, it's because it goes right along with the non-aggressive principle, non-aggressive pact or principle, whatever one that you want to call it. In that you're not trying to tell anybody what to do with their lives, as long as it doesn't affect you in your life, or doesn't hurt you in your life, or doesn't intrude on you in your life. Then you're basically saying, hey, if you want to kill yourself, kill yourself. It's got nothing to do with me, unless it got something to do with me. That it's not a thinking thing. It's more of a stay out of my stuff. Like, the government shouldn't be involved in my stuff. Local government shouldn't be involved in my stuff unless it's something that's, has to be mediated. I agree with a lot of that principle, but that's actually what they're founded on. I looked it up a long time ago because I was trying to figure out where I was, like where do I stand? Am I libertarian? Am I knew what I wasn't. And definitely not socialist or communist. I think as far as politics go, if you cut the bullshit out of it and the lockstep out of it, that both sides, the common both sides, have good ideas. They don't agree on how to implement those ideas or how to fund those ideas. And not all of them agree on those ideas, but I think some of each side have good ideas. And I definitely think all of them, or most of them, have good intentions behind those ideas, if that makes sense. But the road to hell and all that. I think that the leftist argument and all the way the reason that people are freaking out and all that is because they do think that they're doing good for people. They just don't realize that they're not doing good for everybody. They're only doing good for certain groups of people.
By the
I
way,
think-
most of your drawing is off screen.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're gonna do.
I don't want to kill my camera.
Well, that's. I'm just letting you know. I don't know if.
No, I'm saying I'm using the big clipboard now, so I have about this much shift room from top to bottom.
Okay, I just letting you know.
Yep.
My fear
Me,
is
me
that-
as well. I'm just letting you know as well.
Okay. My fear is that we get done with the show.
Thank you for telling me.
You know, it's like I had parents get mad at me because I messaged home with how many assignments their kids were missing. And some of them were like, well, why'd you ever let it get that many? It's just like, okay.
Why did you?
I know. It's like, I don't know. So I never liked that kind of. So, you know, we're having a good conversation and whatnot. But I was like, well, you know, people are wanting to see what's drawing. I want to show it. But I also knew you didn't have a lot of room.
No, you're absolutely right. I didn't realize that I'm not drawing on screen, and
Yeah.
I'm just explaining the reason why is because when I flip the paper around and I'm
Right.
I'm trying to reach, like, actually I would rather have it closer, but if I get it too close, then I'm leaning on the board. That's I'm trying to keep from leaning on the board and be able to show something. The irony is I'm doing all this, you know, broken and chunky streets and all this other stuff. I would never want to walk on these streets. I would never want to.
I was thinking today about, because I have heard and I have said everybody likes a little bit of socialism. It's just to how much they want. And I think there's plenty of proof for that, because like even Ayn Rand, I think, was on welfare at one point. And or she got social
I think
security or
that's
something.
I think that some of that stuff is generalized
Well, I'm
as
just saying.
socialism, and it's not really socialism. It's a program that's supposed to help people. But the thing is, when it stops helping people and it starts making them dependent,
Right.
that's when
Well-
it's really socialism.
And again, it comes down to it's like risk tolerance, I guess. I mean, it's how much do you really want? And then I was really thinking about that, and I was like, you know what? Everybody likes a little bit of libertarianism too. Just it depends on how much. Like there's a balance there, and you know, and I think everyone has their own tastes. So some people are like, you know, I don't want any help, and I don't want a safety net, and I don't ask me to provide you with one, and so they're super individualist, whatever. And then there are people who are, you know, communism is just socialism's inevitable end. So at least the general progression. You know, obviously there are two sides
yeah,
of this that are just.
That was what Marx preached.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you got to find a balance. The idea that you're going to socialism has all the answers. No, it doesn't. It's got a lot of problems. But does it have all the problems? No, because libertarian has problems too. So they don't have all the solutions.
Yeah,
So
those aren't the only two choices.
I realize
thing
that, but those are two extremes.
The thing that
Yeah, they-
keeps me from being like a straight out libertarian is that I'm Christian. And libertarians don't press Christian value because it involves thinking that you know how somebody should live their lives.
See, I never think of it by Christianity like that. I think it tells me how I'm supposed to try to live my life.
Exactly. That is the way it's supposed to be, but because Christianity developed what we call morality. Morality comes from Christianity, just like marriage is actually a word. and a term that comes from Christianity. Not saying that other cultures didn't have the same idea, but they didn't have marriage. That was a Christian thing, which is why a lot of them fight so hard about not wanting other people to use that term when those other people just want social contracts.
Which is what I said. The only thing the government should be involved with is social contracts. So that was my thing. But
so like they're saying that you get married so that you have the same rights for insurance and same rights to visit people in the hospital or whatever.
Right.
Shouldn't that be your right to choose whether you're married or not?
Well, to me, that's a civil union, and that's the only thing the government should have recognized. Because there are certain issues, like my wife can, if my wife goes into debt, I'm in debt. If I go into debt, she's in debt.
Right.
So there are some real aspects of it besides just Christian values.
No, you're talking about marriage though versus civil union, but I'm not. I'm saying that I don't think either one of them should be necessary for you to say who comes and visits you in the hospital.
Well,
for you to share, like if I choose to share this property with you, I shouldn't have to have a civil union with you. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
no.
I think that the government shouldn't be in that business.
Right, but what they were saying is, let's say that my wife and I get in a car wreck, and she's a vegetable. I have certain rights to determine her care because we're married. And
I understand.
They're saying, so that's why I said civil. Like, I don't believe in them. I don't really think the government should issue marriage licenses. I think they should issue civil union licenses. And a marriage is a term that I don't think the government should be involved in at all.
So what I'm also saying is just that thing. Like when you're talking about that, if you get in an accident or whatever, I should be able to give anyone the right to make that decision for me.
Right, and I think you basically can as long as you have the foresight to do it. It was an emergency situation, which they again. The left I suppose the right does this too, and I'm biased, but the left likes to take the extreme rare case and tailor everything around that so that you're basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater. But
I think the right's on the opposite end of that. It's the right's big preaches unintended consequences.
Okay.
I mean, it is an extreme, but it's saying, these are things that you're not thinking about when you're suggesting or talking about this or whatever.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I can see that.
And it's the difference because, like, when you think about liberal and you think about the word liberal, I mean,
about classic liberal.
The word liberal. Right. There's two different common uses, but they're pretty much the same. One of them is to spread something liberally, is to give a lot of it out, right?
Okay.
And the liberal in government is to liberally define the Constitution. So to spread it out as thin as you can get it to what your purpose is. The conservatives and the conservatives are trying to stay as close to the Constitution and the original meanings of the Constitution as they can. And that's where the difference is. One of them you're thinking progressive, which means they're progressing away from the Constitution to give things that the Constitution was never intended to grant. And the conservatives are saying, well, you can't, there's no way you can do this for the money. It's not equal to everybody, so it's not right, because that's the whole point, right? We're all created equal. So, I mean, that's the division in terms, and the division in thinking is, oh, I can give this away and give that away, but the problem is it's not yours to give away. Now, I've heard proposals lately, I'm sure you have too, that we go to a straight 10% income tax, because there are certain, I think Charlie Kirk was saying something about it. I know Elon Musk was saying something about it, where they're talking about it would be fair because we need certain things, like we need highways and we need ambulances and whatnot. We need police, and we need different services that need to be paid for from taxes, because they need to be paid for, and they're not going to just produce it out of thin air. But if everybody had to pay in 10%, that would be fair and equal for everybody, right? And they're gonna argue that, well, some people make more, but that doesn't matter. It's not fair to the people who make more, because they make more, they have to pay more. And there's a lot of excess spending in the government that, like Elon Musk said, he paid something like $4 billion in taxes. Like he pays more than anybody else or something like that. Like, it was an incredible amount. So it's not like he's not paying any taxes because he's wealthy and he knows all the tricks or whatever. He's paying taxes.
The problem with that is that 10%, as you get to lower incomes, that 10% is going to eat. Like, you don't have as much. Your 90% isn't enough to cover what you need. Whereas if 90% of, after a while, the 90% is just fine. You won't notice that.
So if I make $100, I'm paying $10 in.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that if that $10 is not going to make or break me.
Okay.
And if Elon Musk made $347 billion, then he's paying huge amounts. He's paying like $30 million in, right? Or $30 billion in, right? So.
Okay, but when he pays his $30 billion in, how many billions does he have left? Versus.
It's still 90. It's 90% versus 10%. You have the same opportunity. You can make as much as he can make.
Sure. But I'm telling you right now, the argument is.
Oh, I know what the argument is. That doesn't make it right.
Well, again, your 10% can, for some populations, is going to be way more damaging to them than it is for other populations. So, when this idea that it's fair, because everyone pays 10%, I can recognize there's a certain truth to that. And from a certain perspective, it's appealing, especially because if that's all I had to pay was 10%, it's less than what I'm paying now. So,
right,
not okay, but there are a lot of people who pay no taxes, which we can argue isn't fair.
So 10% of zero is
0.
All right. So what does it change for them?
But again, if you make, let's say I make $100,000. And I got to pay 10, right? And I'm still left with $90,000. Great. But if I make $10,000 and now I'm left with $9,000, there's a huge disparity in what I can buy. And my 10%, while smaller than your 10%, will preclude me from buying more things than it does you. That's it.
So what?
I would benefit from having a 10% income tax rate. So I have You're not arguing with me. Like I'm
What
like,
I'm saying though is that it doesn't matter because you're still paying in. Like, so if somebody makes way more than what I make, that has nothing to do with my life.
well,
It's not going to change how I live at all.
that's why we have a progressive tax thing, is so that those at the lower end of the tax rung pay less, so that they can keep more of their money because they need a higher percentage of their money than people at the other end of the spectrum who can pay more in taxes, because at a certain point, your house is paid for, your car is paid for, your other house is paid for, your other cars are paid for, your boats are paid for, your vacations are paid for.
Because I've used my money wisely or whatever, then I don't deserve to have my money because somebody else doesn't have as much money.
Oh, okay. At some point in time, you're going to, like, for me, my house is paid for, right? So I don't have that bill, do I? No, I don't have that bill. My cars are paid for. Guess what? I don't have that bill.
You pay taxes
I do pay taxes
on your car?
when I bought it.
You don't pay excise tax for your license plates and all that stuff?
Yeah, all those things. Pay for license.
You pay property tax?
Yep.
So everybody's still paying.
Okay, but I'm saying that at a certain point, when you make enough money, you can avoid bills. Like this is a standard economic thing. It is incredibly expensive to be poor, and then you're going to say, all right, well, I'm rich enough, I can avoid some of these things. You can't, and we're going to pay the same tax rate. That's it. And again, saying that everyone pays 10% and making sure that everyone has some skin in the game, not a bad argument. I think there's something to be said about that. And if you look at a lot of the European countries, you know how they raise their taxes? They make sure everyone pays, not just the rich.
Yeah, I don't want to look at the European countries because they have nothing to do with how we have been.
Well, I'm just saying that there is evidence to support a 10% income tax. And I think there is, and again, I think you can look at, there's support for that argument from Europe. So, I mean, it supports what you're saying. So I have no problem with that. I'm simply saying when we look at some of the ways that taxes are done and progressive tax rates, it's not as simple as simply saying it's a 10% across the board and that's fair, because that way everyone pays 10% of their income. I think that's better than 10% sales tax, to be honest. But
I think fair for one person is fair for another person, and if you make it so that somebody else has an advantage because they're disadvantaged, it's not fair to the person who has any advantages. It's not fair. I mean, I'm not saying that. Well, actually, I'm just saying it's not fair. Like, for you to charge somebody else more because somebody else has less, that's communism.
Well, okay, taxes in general are communism, but again, I mean, all right.
Right, and there's a certain level that we need because we need police and roads and stuff like that, and that's what I was saying at the beginning.
Well, okay, but that's just, I mean, again, just look at the logic of the whole thing. Why don't we crank that up to 50%? So now if you make
that's not logical to me at all.
Well, it's completely,
it's just numbers.
It's just numbers. And
but
if you're,
it's a hell of a lot different than 50% than 10%, no matter what class you are.
Well, again, but it highlights the issue with charging everyone the same, because let's say I make 100,000. All right, I'm going to make 50,000. Kind of sucks because I just paid 50 grand into taxes. But now
that's why nobody's saying to pay 50%.
I get that, but it's the same principle. So if someone who's making 30,000 now they're making 15. And just think about how much less buying power $15,000 has. I mean, yeah, it's a lot less. I mean, 30,000 is a lot less than 100,000. There are a lot of things we can get at 30,000, whereas the 50,000 guy, or the guy that was making 100,000 now is paying 50% of his income, which again is way too high. But I'm just saying, like, I would never propose 50,000. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating for 50% income taxes. But all I am saying is you can start to see where the difference in income is exacerbated by a flat 10% tax. And
I don't really. I know what you're trying to say. I just don't agree.
well,
I don't agree that 10% is going to break anyone of anything. That's tithe. I pay it all the time.
tithe is willing.
Tithe is the law.
It's
Or giving of abundance is willing.
well, okay.
Tithe,
No one's going to put a gun to your head, and if you
tithe
don't
is the Christian law. It's God's law.
No one's going to put a gun to your head.
No,
if you don't
nobody's
tithe.
going to put a gun to your head, but nobody's going to put a gun to my head if I don't pay taxes either. They're going to put me in jail.
Okay, and if you resist going to jail, what happens then? I mean, the whole argument about taxes is that it's glorified theft, which it is. But and again, we do need to pay for things, but there are other ways of paying for things. But and I agree, we probably need taxes. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying overall, general, that it's a lot more complicated than simply slapping 10% on. And I'm saying that there is a valuable. I mean, I kind of like the idea of 10%. Don't get me wrong. It's just that I recognize that I think there are some valid arguments against it. Like, it's not a perfect thing. It's not a perfect solution. That's all I'm saying, really. And I realize it sounds like I'm arguing against you, but really, I kind of like the idea of the 10%. Trust me, I really do. I also want you to, I guess, recognize that there might be more to it, I guess, or at least another viewpoint that's valid. That's all. Because I heard Charlie Kirk say the 10% thing, and I thought it was just a reference to tithing. I didn't know they had actually pushed that, because I had heard Trump talk about tariffs. Wanting to go all the way back to tariffs instead of doing income tax. And quite frankly, the idea of income tax at all sounds terrible to me. For me, income tax, if we recognize that taxing something means you're going to get less of it, then taxing income is just, taxing production is terrible. We should be taxing consumption. And there was an interesting thing I saw earlier today about basically arguing this point, in that it would be, and I don't know to me, this sounds a lot like taxing unrealized gains, which is why I'm kind of hesitant on it. But the guy was like, if you own property that you're just sitting on, then that's the kind of stuff we should tax. Not the stuff where you're going out making money. And I'm like, that kind of sounds right. But at the same time, I'm thinking, if it was that easy, that's my thing. I guess that's my alarm. If anything sounds easy, I start thinking, it can't be that easy. I just don't trust it. So I like 10. I mean, again, if I had to vote for a system, if it was going to be, would I do a 10% income tax if it was on everybody, and then over a progressive income tax? I would have to see the progressive income tax, because I think there are some merits to both, and 10% is low enough, might work out better than a progressive income tax. But
I think when you see what's actually being spent on, there's a lot of bullshit numbers in there, and if you cut the bullshit numbers out, I think 10% should be fine.
Well, I think if we get rid of a lot of our stupid spend, I think our government spends way more on Black Ops and things off the books than what we're told. I absolutely think our government launders money. And
There's a whole shitload of money that we spent recently to give to scientists to study butterflies in another country. And they're
Right.
scientists of another country.
Swedish scientists to study butterflies in Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Swedish scientists to study butterflies in Germany.
and why we have to pay for that is beyond me.
We don't.
And-
They're that's the thing. It's not that we have to. It's that this is what they're wasting money on.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. They take taxpayer money.
Helmets are a good idea in Ghana.
But oh yeah, they're
250,000
$250,000.
to study if seatbelts and helmets are a good idea in Ghana.
Do you hear that?
Yeah. And again, all of those are things like that's what I'm hoping Elon Musk does with his Department of Government Efficiency is to go through and just start saying none of that crap. Or
Well,
at least you have to justify it a hell of a lot better.
It's Elon Musk advising, but it's Vivek Ramaswamy, and I think,
Whatever.
well, he's also a businessman. He's a successful businessman.
I know. I just know that Elon Musk
Just-
has already gone through and streamlined several processes. That's why I trust
Yeah.
that he'll do it.
Just
So-
I was just stating that the actual cabinet member is going to be Vivek
Okay.
Ramaswamy.
I think
Yeah,
he'll do it.
because Elon has to be an advisor. If not, then he'll be in
Conflict of interest.
conflict of interest, which is what I had mentioned before.
Right. Instead, he should not
Plus,
have
he's
secrets.
running a whole shitload of businesses.
Right. Instead, he should actually be selling and making nothing, so he can be on the board of some place and make millions of dollars a month over things he knows nothing about, and that would be okay.
Right.
Because conflict of interest has nothing to do if you're a Democrat.
Right. Well, there all those Democrats that are investing in stocks that
Oh, I know.
they would not otherwise have information on if they weren't members of committees that were making decisions about certain stocks.
Right.
So yeah, that's corrupt as fuck.
Uh-huh.
That's one of the things I really liked Senator Josh Hawley about is he really calls all that shit out.
Yeah.
So we're over time
All right.
by a couple of minutes, and I'm finished with that panel. So
Okay.
I
Well, I'm
think.
just-
Go ahead. I'm just saying that's probably it for the night.
All right. Well, that's fine. Well, I'll let it go.
Well, I didn't want to cut you off. I was just saying, go ahead and finish what you were saying, but I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, don't forget, and I'm going to just type it out so it's on screen too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, cha-cha, whatever.
And thanks, Creative Faye, for hanging out for a little bit and talking. Thanks for our one viewer that watches all the time.
The secret viewer.
Right. So
He's our watcher.
thanks for those that liked, followed, subscribed, and all the stuff that he just put that don't forget to do. And we look forward to comments, so if you even want to comment after the video or after the videos are done, we welcome it. Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace out.